Hey, History Soldier here, and today we're going over Central America during World War One. Now, Central America is the tail of North America. It contains 8 countries, which are Mexico, Guatemala, El Salvador, the Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, and Belize. But since I'm going to be going over World War One, I won't be going over Belize because Belize wasn't a nation at the time. It wasn't a nation until 1981, and it was known as the British Honduras during the war. Now, not all the Central American nations declared war. There were actually only 5 out of the 7 countries that actually declared war, which were Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, and Guatemala. Mexico and El Salvador remained neutral during the war. Now, the first country I want to go over is Mexico. Mexico was neutral for 2 reasons. They saw the war as a European affair, and they didn't see any reason for them to get involved. And plus, they were going through a bloody civil war, which is now known as the Mexican Revolution, which was from 1910 to 1920. But they did sell oil to both sides, but only to the British and the Germans. But I believe they sold more oil to the United States or other ones, but I'm not sure about that. They were selling to the British fleet and German companies to German agents. 75% of the fuel used by the British fleet was actually from Mexico. Next, we have Guatemala. Guatemala had one reason to go to war, and that was the dictator/president of Guatemala, Estrada Cabrera. He wanted to get the stranglehold that the Germans had on the coffee industry and scientific methods in Guatemala. Because what they did was they invested so much money into the coffee industry and introduced so many scientific methods that it actually made them control about 50% or more or less of Guatemala's economy. But he had to be patient because, one, he couldn't just kick the Germans out because of that. He had to wait for the perfect excuse. And he did find his excuse. And that excuse was a German minister named Kurt Lehmann. Sorry if I'm butchering that name or I'm saying it stupidly. He was going to create a Mexican invasion into Guatemala and then ignite revolts in that region. So the United States would have to send troops there instead of Europe, so the Central Powers could take care of Britain and France and not have U.S. intervention. When he found out this, he quickly went to the Guatemalan Assembly, or whatever Congress they had. I'm not sure which one it was, Assembly or Congress. And they voted unanimously to be an ally of the United States during the war and join its war effort. They actually declared war on Germany on April 23rd, 1918. Next, we have El Salvador. El Salvador was neutral during the war once it started because, like Mexico, it saw itself as no need for their intervention, so they decided to stay out of it. But they did do something that helped the war. When the United States declared war on Germany on April 7, 1917, El Salvador offered the U.S. government that they could use El Salvador's ports for the war and its effort, because the president wanted to exercise friendly neutrality towards the United States to gain better relations. Next, we have the Honduras. The Honduras was neutral once the war started, but it started to get affected badly because, financial reasons. That's why. Banana prices dropped, so did agricultural exports, because you can't trade with a country at war, and many of the big countries that were one of the biggest traders were at war. And once the United States was at war, that was their biggest trader. Because the United States was putting everything towards their war effort, so the Honduras couldn't trade with them. So many imports they got from the United States, such as raw materials and all that stuff and textiles, were scarce. But the banana companies they had there was still prospering for some, I'm not sure why. Probably because they still had fruit to sell. And they actually ranked up like $1.25 million a year, I believe. But even with all their financial problems, they were still able to support the United States war effort against Germany and Austria-Hungary and all the other Central Powers, and declared war on Germany on July 19, 1918. being the last country to do so. Next, we have Nicaragua. Nicaragua joined the war because of one reason: the United States. Because years earlier, in 1912, the United States invaded Nicaragua and basically took over the country. Well, they didn't invade it for no reason. I will do a separate video of why the United States invaded Nicaragua, but just to make it short, they invaded because of a certain killings of U.S. mercenaries. But I'm not going to go over the full story because I really want to talk about Nicaragua during World War One, not the invasion of Nicaragua. That will be a separate video. And by the time the United States entered the war, it told that Nicaragua had to sever diplomatic relations because, it's basically taken over by the U.S. almost. Nicaragua still had a government, but it had a lot of American influence because it was invaded. So in April 1917, they severed diplomatic relations with Austria-Hungary and Germany. And about a year later, they declared war on both of the two big Central Powers, Austria-Hungary and Germany, on May 8th, 1918. Costa Rica. Costa Rica had only one reason to join the war. That was because their dictator/president, Federico Tinoco, in the bottom left-hand corner, he was denied recognition from the United States President Woodrow Wilson. Because a year earlier, in 1917, he seized power in Costa Rica from a coup. And once he took power, the United States refused to recognize him and his government. So he thought if he joined the war on America's side and fought, he would gain recognition. But this highly backfired on him. Because when he joined the war on May 23rd, 1918, and the war ended months later on November 11th, 1918, he still was denied recognition from President Wilson. And also, President Wilson made sure he did not go to the peace conference at Versailles, Paris, in 1919. Man, his plan really backfired. The last country I'm going to talk about is Panama. Panama had a couple reasons to join the war. One was because America was the reason Panama was a country. Because in 1903, when Panama was having a war of independence or revolution, whatever you like to call it, against Colombia, the United States sent a warship over there to help them against their war against Colombia. And this actually was because the U.S. wanted to build a canal, but they couldn't build the canal because Colombia said not to. So they said, you know what, we're just going to help Panama win the war so we can, work with Panama, gain good relations, and then build the canal. The second reason was the canal was also essential to Panama's existence as well, because all that trade going through there, it made them a lot of money and trade. So, and also, they had to defend their canal from the Central Powers, because the Central Powers because the canal is such a key piece in North America. That's what makes that's a shortcut. Because if you can't go through the canal, you have to go around South America. But yeah, hold on, sorry. Ugh. That's the only reason they joined the war. They had to protect their canal. America was the reason they had so much trade in existence and their independence. So it's President Ramon Valdez. Sorry if I'm not saying that name right. He severed diplomatic relations with Germany and Austria-Hungary. And he also expelled all German consuls in the country and said any German plots against the canal means all Germans will be interned for a long duration of time. But yeah, that was all for today. I'm sorry that the video felt rushed. That's because I have a certain time limit on here. I'm using Bandicam, and I don't have the full version, so I can only use 10 minutes. Yeah, but I'm pretty sure people would understand. You just gotta look at any other YouTubers that use Bandicam and aren't registered. But yeah, if you have any questions about this, feel free to comment down below. I'll answer any questions if I can, or I'll try the best I can. But yeah, I will do South America and the Caribbean nations next, and then start doing Asia, and then the African colonies, and all that stuff. But yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed.